I should preface my introduction by saying that if you're a devoted admirer of the British monarchy, I mean no offense by what I'm about to say. But on the day that Queen Elizabeth II passed away, I first heard the news when a student came rushing toward me during recess, exclaiming, "Mr. Tawes, Mr. Tawes, the Queen died." I paused for a moment, then calmly reached into my pocket, retrieved my phone, did a quick Google search, and replied, "No, she didn't. Diana Ross is alive and well. Long live the Queen." Now, I had no personal issue with Queen Elizabeth, but the fact is, royalty is, at its core, a human construct. A nation may bestow a crown as a symbol of power and tradition, but on a personal level, we each have figures of reverence, those we elevate, those who inspire us, individuals whose presence feels larger than life. And for me, there is but one queen, the great Diana Ross. But I didn't always know that. I came out of the closet at age 27. But as a Pentecostal preacher, mine wasn't just the typical closet. It was fortified, steel reinforced, airtight. It was less of a closet and more of a dungeon, sealed off from the world with no windows to let in the light of possibility. And when I finally broke free, I wasn't just stepping into the world, I was stepping into the gay world. A universe that had always existed just beyond my reach, and it fascinated me. The bold self-expression of drag queens, the deep appreciation for camp theatricality, the coded language and inside jokes that had been passed down through generations. It was all new to me, and I soaked it in with curiosity and excitement. But there was one thing I did not quite understand, and that was the tendency of gay men to have a near religious devotion to iconic female performers, often referred to as divas. I remember listening with curiosity as a college professor. One of the first people I came out to gushed about Barbra Streisand. And although I had no negative feelings about this legendary singer and actor, I just didn't comprehend the fascination. Likewise, I had fond memories of watching The Wizard of Oz as a child, but I could not understand why the gay community seemed to idolize Judy Garland. Madonna was an amazing singer and performer, but she didn't exactly walk on water. Then, amidst this pantheon of iconic women, one figure ascended above the rest, Diana Ross, rising like a goddess, radiant and undeniable. It wasn't that I was discovering her for the first time. I had always known her name, her music, her legendary status, but now I was seeing her with new eyes, and I was captivated by every detail. She did not merely exude radiance, she embodied it, moving with effortless grace, her every step a lesson in elegance. Her voice, smooth as velvet, yet powerful as a storm, wrapped itself around every note, turning each song into an experience. Sweeping, soaring, pulling me in until I felt as though I was not just listening, but living inside the music. She shimmered in sequins, radiated glamour, yet carried herself with warmth. Never distant, always inviting the world into her glow. Whether commanding a stadium or gliding onto a talk show stage with a knowing smile, she exuded an energy that was both larger than life and deeply personal. She was not just a performer, she was a presence, a force, a woman who moved through the world as if she had been born to be adored. And in that moment, I knew I had found my goddess. Discovering Diana Ross in this way wasn't just about music or admiration. It was about something deeper. There was something in her presence, in the way she carried herself, that resonated with me in a way I hadn't expected. She was bold yet graceful, powerful yet warm, unapologetically herself in every setting. And as I stood in awe of her, I began to understand something I hadn't fully grasped before. Embracing who you are, fully, unapologetically, and without hesitation, is not just an act of self-expression, it is an act of liberation and an act of joy. Because joy is more than happiness. Joy is a sacred spark that rises when you claim your truth, when you stop hiding and start dancing. And who better to lead the way into that truth than the woman who declared to the world, "I'm coming out." In 1979, songwriters Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards were hired to produce Diana Ross's album, Diana. The two had been brought on to help reinvent Ross's sound and image as she prepared to leave Motown Records, the label that had launched her career nearly 2 decades earlier. That summer, Nile Rodgers was out bar hopping in New York City when he wandered into Gigi's Barnum Room, a legendary nightclub known for its extravagant drag performances and vibrant LGBTQ crowd. While in the men's room, Rodgers suddenly noticed that he was surrounded by drag queens, but not just any drag queens dressed as Diana Ross. It was in that moment that inspiration struck. What if Diana Ross had a song that celebrated freedom and self-expression, he thought? What if she had an anthem that not only captured her own reinvention, but also honored the people who idolized her? He rushed out of the restroom to a nearby payphone and called Bernard Edwards, exclaiming, "Write this down, I'm coming out." They wrote the song quickly, pouring into it a sense of joy, power, and personal liberation. When Ross first heard it, she loved the sound. But when she realized what the phrase coming out meant in gay culture, she hesitated. The phrase coming out was, and still is, widely recognized as a declaration of LGBTQ identity, and Ross was concerned the public might misinterpret the song, assuming she was making a personal statement about her own sexuality. But Rodgers explained that the song was bigger than any one interpretation. It was about emergence, about freedom, about owning who you are without apology. And that was a message that resonated deeply with Ross, especially as she was stepping into her own independence after years of being shaped by Motown. Ross recorded the song later that year, and it was released as the second single from her album Diana in August of 1980. It quickly became a cultural anthem, not just for gay audiences, but for anyone stepping into their true self. Over time, I'm Coming Out became more than a hit song. It became a rallying cry, a celebration of authenticity, and a reminder that there is both joy and power in showing the world exactly who you are. But of course, there's a difference between believing in authenticity and actually living it. It's one thing to nod along to the message. It's another thing to entirely to put it into practice, to live your truth out loud, even when it feels vulnerable. I learned that in a very unexpected way. Now, I've never been what you'd call shy, at least not in the traditional sense. I've never had trouble speaking in front of crowds, preaching to a packed sanctuary, or commanding a room with my voice. But looking silly in front of people, being the center of attention in a way that might provoke laughter instead of applause, that's another story. So in 2008, when two women in Charleston invited me to perform in an amateur charity drag show at Club Pantheon and told me I'd be lip-syncing I'm Coming Out, I was hesitant. The poetry of the moment wasn't lost on me. Here I was, not long out of the closet myself, a former Pentecostal preacher about to strut across a nightclub stage in heels and a wig, performing the very anthem that had helped me crack open my closet door. I agreed to do it reluctantly, but only because my friends assured me that once the makeup and costume were on, I'd be unrecognizable. I thought, if I don't look like me, I won't feel like me. I'll tap into some fabulous drag alter ego and leave Clint backstage. It reminded me of high school when I was the school mascot. I was painfully shy during practices, but once I put on the bulldog costume, I was free. I figured drag would work the same way. So for weeks, I practiced in my bedroom, lip-syncing into a hairbrush, choreographing every move. I was determined to be fabulous. Then the night of the show arrived. And when they finished my makeup and spun my chair to look in the mirror, I did not see a glamorous diva staring back at me. I saw Clint. In a wig that looked not so much like Diana Ross, but more like Delta Burke in a bad storm. My makeup was trying its hardest, but instead of transforming me into a beautiful impersonation of a woman, I looked like a church deacon who had lost a bet. I panicked. As the performer before me finished up, I stood backstage, frozen. My heart was pounding. My friends were in the audience, and one of them, someone I had a bit of a crush on, was standing right in front of the stage. I was about to make a complete fool of myself in front of Charleston's entire gay community. And then, just before I became the runaway drag queen, my goddess began to sing. You know how the song begins, that joyful horn riff, the bass line strutting in like it owns the place, and her voice, bold, clear, commanding, I'm coming out. Hearing those words from that voice, something within me immediately shifted. My fear didn't vanish, it just stopped mattering. My inhibitions fell away like a cheap boa. I didn't just walk onto that stage, I sauntered, I strutted, I let go and let the music carry me. And although I forgot every choreographed move I had practiced, I did not care. I was having the time of my life. Then came the instrumental break after the second verse, and I got bold. I spotted my friend, the one I had the crush on, standing front and center, and without a moment's hesitation, I grabbed his hand and pulled him up on stage. During the 40-second instrumental, we danced, we laughed, and in the joy of that moment, with lights shining down and music pulsing all around, it felt like we were suspended in something sacred, as if the hundreds of people surrounding us had completely disappeared and we were the only two people in the building. Then I whispered, I'll give you a little peck on the cheek to signal when you can head back down. Without missing a beat, he responded, peck hell. And right there, under those bright lights, with hundreds of spectators watching, he gave me what is still to this day the most mind-blowing, lipstick-smearing, breath-stealing, knee-buckling kiss I have ever had in my life. Am I saying Diana Ross's music is magic? Well, I'm not saying that. But here's what I know for sure. Just moments earlier, I was hiding behind a curtain, literally, paralyzed by fear and self-doubt. And then in an instant, I stepped into the light. Not just the light of a stage, but the light of my own becoming. And what happened in that moment was more than a personal victory. It was a glimpse of what's possible when we stop shrinking, stop hiding, and let joy lead us forward. I'm Coming Out isn't just a song about stepping out of the closet. It's about stepping into your truth. It's about shaking off shame. It's about silencing the voices that say, don't be too much. Stay quiet. Play it safe. It's about making the courageous decision to show up fully as yourself. And that's not just a message for LGBTQ folks. That is a human message. All of us are carrying something we're afraid to reveal. Some are hiding grief. Some are hiding dreams. Some are hiding joy. Some are hiding the voice inside that says there's more to me than what the world sees. And for some, that voice has been met with resistance. Maybe you've been told you're too old, that your best years are behind you. Maybe you've held back because of a past mistake, because of what people expect of you, because someone once made you feel small, because you learned to be invisible to stay safe, because survival meant staying quiet. But that voice is still there. And deep down, you know as long as you're still breathing, there's still plenty of becoming to do. There's still a light inside of you. There's still a song waiting to be sung. There's still a part of you the world needs to see. And if that's you, if there's a light in you that's been covered up by fear or shame or silence, if you've been waiting for permission to let it shine, then hear the gospel according to Diana Ross. I'm coming out. I want the world to know. Got to let it show. Maybe it's time. Maybe this is your moment. Maybe this is the day you step out. Not just out of hiding, but into wholeness. Let the music play. Let the light in. Let the joy in, and come on out. You know, when I get into that preacher rhythm like that, it really makes it feel easy, doesn't it? But in reality, coming out isn't easy. Whether you're coming out as gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or simply coming out as yourself, as an artist, as a dreamer, as someone with a different path, a different truth, a different kind of light, it requires courage. It asks you to risk being seen, and it often means leaving behind something familiar to step into something uncertain. When I first made the decision to come out, it wasn't as simple as just stepping into the light. I could see the life I longed for, a life of honesty, freedom, connection, a life of peace, a life of joy. But between me and that life stood a mountain. Not just a metaphor, not just a feeling, a mountain built from very real things. made of paychecks I wouldn't earn anymore because the only career I had ever known was one that would no longer welcome me. Made of friendships I knew I would lose, family members who would stop calling, church members who would start praying for me instead of with me. I didn't just fear being misunderstood, I feared being abandoned, cut off, forgotten. And that mountain stood between me and the life I had only dared to imagine. A life where I could be fully known and still fully loved. A life where I could laugh freely, dance freely, love freely, where I could know joy without guilt. And yet, Jesus once said, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. I didn't know if I had that kind of faith. Now, I realized when Diana Ross sang the words, ain't no mountain high enough, she wasn't offering a sermon. She wasn't writing a theological treatise. She was performing a reimagined love song, one originally recorded by Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell, now infused with orchestral elegance and Ross's own sense of power and drama. So yes, I admit I'm taking the lyrics out of context, but when I heard her sing Ain't No Mountain High Enough, I didn't just hear music. I heard momentum. I heard defiance. I heard joy that refused to be buried beneath fear. Because what gave those words weight wasn't just the lyrics, but the life of the woman who sang them. Even if the mountain didn't move all at once, I could move, I could step, I could climb, and I did. I found courage not in the chorus alone, but in the story of someone who had faced mountains of her own and climbed them with elegance and grit. Someone who didn't come from power or privilege, someone who knew what it was to start at the bottom. Diana Ross grew up in the Brewster Douglas housing projects, a neighborhood where dreams didn't always survive the weight of reality, a place that didn't hand out crowns but raised women who knew how to wear them. She dreamed of something bigger, something brighter, and she never let go of that dream. When she auditioned for Motown, she wasn't immediately seen as a star. She was told she was too young, too soft-spoken, not quite ready for the spotlight. But she kept showing up. She kept climbing. She became the lead singer of the Supremes, the first black female group to achieve mainstream crossover success. They broke records. They broke barriers. They became the soundtrack of an era. And when it was time to step into a new chapter, she did so with both strength and sorrow. Leaving the group wasn't about ego, it was about growth, about honoring what had been while trusting there was still more to become. She stepped out as a solo artist, risking it all, starting over, defying every expectation. And still, there were more mountains. As a black woman in an industry dominated by white men, she had to fight for respect, for control over her own image, for the right to define herself on her own terms. She faced criticism, condescension, and dismissal, and she met it all with poise, with style, and with a refusal to dim her light for anyone. She showed us, not just with her voice, but with her life, that no mountain is too high when you know who you are and what you're worth. So yes, when she sang those words, ain't no mountain high enough, I may have borrowed them for my own journey, but I believed them because she lived them. Because she had climbed, because she kept climbing, and because she made space on the mountain for the rest of us. Maybe your mountain looks different than mine. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's loss. Maybe it's the weight of expectations that were never really yours to carry. Whatever stands between you and the life you long for, may you find the courage to take the first step, to believe that you are worthy of joy, not worthy of joy someday, not worthy when everything goes right, worthy right now, worthy of joy because you are alive, because you are enough. And as we climb, may we remember that we don't have to climb alone. Because sometimes the first act of liberation is exactly what Diana Ross invited us to do in her very first solo release. Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can. So take that first step. And when it feels too steep, too far, or too heavy, remember you were made for joy. Not someday, not when you have it all figured out, but right now, exactly as you are. Joy isn't just the reward for living authentically. Joy is the power that makes it possible. Joy is what carries us through fear, through uncertainty, through every mountain we thought we couldn't climb. When we claim our light, when we dance without waiting for permission, when we dare to show up fully and fearlessly, we are participating in something holy. We are choosing life. We are choosing joy. And when we leave this place today, may we do so with a little more lightness in our step, a little more music in our spirit, and a deep knowing that joy is not just something we feel, it is something we live. Amen, and long live the Queen.